Welcome back to another episode.
Hello, welcome back.
So, today I wanted to talk about if you ever feel like your job changes the kind of parent that you are. What do you think? What
Well, I don't know.
again?
I think a lot of times that our training sure does. And I think that having sort of that underlying constant stress changed how I respond to situations. One thing I didn't anticipate was how triggering my kids can be. So when I can respond to a surgical emergency with calm confidence, but when my little one starts screaming, it's like my mind goes to complete mush. I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, that totally resonates. I never even thought about that, but yeah, I can keep my cool on almost every circumstance at work, but at home, it feels like my fuse is just
Yes,
short.
non-existent. Sometimes I agree. I think that I certainly say a lot of things that one of my favorite things to say to my kids is, "Be a two-handed surgeon. Be a two-handed surgeon." If they're whenever they're doing something, eating ice cream out of a bowl, I'm like, "You can't just use one hand. You have to be a two-handed surgeon. So, like, hold the bowl and hold the spoon." And, like, I say it all the time. So many situations. Isn't that
Oh my
funny?
gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That is very funny. I've never said that to my kids. They would look at me like, "Huh? Huh?"
Mine do also, but they've started to say it now, so it's
Oh,
funny.
I'm sure they have, and their
Mhm.
friends are probably going, "Huh?" I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that. Well, my thought is, I've been thinking about this a lot, so I'm glad we're chatting. I can download it all out of my brain.
I know.
But I've been thinking about like how I spend my time as a mother, and I've realized I am such a task-oriented person. And I don't think that's because I'm a surgeon. I think that's what like
Led
helped
you to
me
become a
become
surgeon.
successful
Mhm.
to be a surgeon.
I
But I am
understand.
such a task-oriented person. I am such an achiever personality that it 100% affects my mothering because that is in my day-to-day at home.
Because
So
nothing ever gets done to
so
completion.
true.
My gosh,
You
it drives
never
me
get to
insane.
check it fully off the list. It just comes
Right.
right back at you, especially
Right.
with little kids. I
Yes.
remember I was in my basement once cleaning up. I think as after we'd moved, and it was like a year later, and we had boxes we never unpacked, and I'm like, I am getting this done finally. And I was so proud of myself. I emerged from the basement like, we did it, hooray! Check, check, check. And the kids had found a box of some like TV or something that had been delivered, and they had taken all of the styrofoam and
Ugh.
just broken it up into tiny little pieces, and it was like everywhere. And at first part of me is like, oh, okay, deep breaths, we're doing fine, fun mom, and like, oh, you guys made snow, how fun. And I was all proud of myself for like
Oh,
keeping it together and like, that's
no.
so cute. And then I tried to clean it up. Have you ever tried to clean
Mm.
that
It
up?
goes it goes everywhere and it sticks to
It
everything.
sticks to everything, and I would sweep it up into the dustpan, and then you go to dump it, and it would just go poof, like out. I
Yes.
had to borrow like a friend's industrial vacuum to get it out, but I was just like, it was like that
Oh my
entropy
gosh.
of the house. There's like a law of average that the chaos in your house is never able to decrease below a certain number. So,
No, and it has its own laws because I feel like the entropy, the chaos is able to exponentially increase. Like, you just said that about the fun mom, and I'm like, that thought would not have even crossed my mind to be the fun mom at all. I would have been like, "What the" you know?
well, that was my initial response, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh, I got this. And then I was like, no,
Mm-mm.
I don't got this. I am like
Oh,
cleaning up styrofoam. It's like glitter, it's like a glitter bomb went off. A
yeah.
styrofoam bomb went off in my
Yes.
house, and it's like months later, and you're still
Gosh.
picking it up.
One thing that I think was really heartbreaking for me was I thought to myself, I'm going to be really good at this like sleepless thing because like I did residency and I like really didn't sleep that much and I I still thrived and I still did, everything. And I was okay with the lack of sleep. It was hard, but what I didn't prepare for was the inability to get anything done. Like, I
Hmm.
usually just like you were saying with tasks, I usually have, like, a list of things that I need to get done, and after my first kiddo, I was shocked by how I could not get anything done. Nothing, 0, nothing. And even now, it's like It takes me forever to complete any project because it's like I go to the store, I get the things I think I need. I get home, that priority is no longer a priority and the stuff gets put away. And then can't get it out unless I want to complete it because if I get it out, then all of the stuff ends up everywhere. And then I'm like, once I get back to it, a month later, I realize that I've lost a bunch of the things or I forgot to get these things. And I'm like, well, that means another trip to the store and I don't have time right now. So
They
that'll be next week
opened it and used it behind your back for
or
something
something.
else.
Yes.
There's
Oh my
always
gosh. There's
something.
always something. And I feel like it takes me a year to get projects done. Oh, it's terrible.
That really resonates with me, and I think will with probably most parents. I'm thinking though, like something that you said that I say, like, I can't get anything done. Yet that's like our surgeon
Yeah.
brain trying to get we're used to having very concrete tasks,
Yes.
right? And
And
not even just
outcomes.
as physicians. I would go crazy as internal medicine doctor having to like, now we're going to prescribe these pills and come back in a
Oh my
month and we'll
gosh.
see if it worked. I want that instant gratification,
Yes,
baby.
same. That's why I
Like
went into surgery. That's why I couldn't do
lay a
ortho.
flap, cut that bone, and wiggle that tooth out, stitch you up, and we are done.
Yeah.
Like
Did it.
that.
Boom. Moving on.
And so
Yes.
being able to translate your successes or your wins into something that's not concrete like that, because really the win is the stuff you got done was keeping that human alive
Alive.
and fed and well cared for and feeling loved and hopefully psychologically minimally traumatized and maybe
Yeah.
even lifted. But that's not how our brains work, right?
Right.
And for
Right.
me, the big thing is how I use my time. So, especially as my kids are getting older, I keep having this battle of I have all of these things I need to get done.
Yeah.
And luckily, I'm in the stage I can get things done now. Thankfully, there gets a stage where you can have some of your life back.
Yeah.
Thankfully, now my kids are in school, I have some free time and I'm working part time. And even though they're in school, I have things I'm trying to get done on my own. And it is really hard for me. I've never really been that like sit down and play blocks, sit down and play trains, sit down and play dolls. I don't really enjoy that.
I think about this all the time. I do, and I've been trying really hard. My husband said somebody that he was flying with talked about this, and they said it's always really hard for us to be doing something like making dinner or that dinner needs to get made and your kids asking you to go play baseball in the front yard and just being like, okay, let's go do it. Because we have to
Mm-hmm.
remind ourselves that they're not trying to go down to San Diego to play a full Major League Baseball game. They want to play catch for like 10 minutes and then they get bored with
Yeah,
it and they're ready
sure.
to move on to something different. But they just want that 10 minutes of time with you.
Yeah.
And so that's really helped us sort of approach it with that, like a different mindset, um, and in a way that it's like makes it palatable and easier to manage. But I've never been one to do the play, like the pretend stuff. I never liked playing house and stuff with my neighbors growing up. I just thought it was like
Well,
strange.
even when I try, then, I'm playing like Barbies and I'm trying to get my Barbie, she's got like
Yeah,
flair. She's got personality. And they're like,
right.
no, mom, that's not what she
Yeah,
says. She can't do that. And they basically just want you to like sit there holding the Barbie, watching them play with their Barbie. So
yeah.
there's really not that much to have to do. But when you've got the list of things in your
Uh-huh.
mind, like, oh, I've got to do my meal planning and I've got to run to the store and then I better get that on the stove before I, rush off to take us to soccer. And then I wanted to send this email and I got a patient call. That's
Yes.
so hard for me. And I have guilt about it sometimes. Am I not
Mhm.
really showing up? I'll go through the day and realize I didn't really spend much time with my kids. And what are other moms doing? Our moms, I think there's different styles. I'm definitely much more of that free range parent. I am not a
Mhm.
helicopter parent. And thankfully, God blessed me with
Yes.
3 children that need minimal supervision, but it'll be like, I haven't checked on them in like an hour or two. I'm sure they're fine. And
Yeah.
in some ways, I read a study that was like, let your kids play without you. That's good and
Mhm.
healthy. So, I mean, that's reassuring, but am I building those bonds? Am I showing up like I should as a parent? Because I
Right.
got so many things I selfishly or unselfishly want to get done. I mean, some of them are my own things. A lot of them are like household things that
Mhm.
need to be done.
You're
And
right.
that's tricky for me.
Laundry doesn't do itself, as it turns out.
Right.
Yes.
So, we're doing it all for them, but should I put it down and go play Pokemon? I don't even know how to play Pokemon. I
Oh
just
my
don't
gosh, I've been
understand what that
learning. It makes
means,
no sense
right?
to me.
You just let them tell you about the cards, is I guess
Right.
what that means. But, how do you manage that?
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm very good at being that like little kid mom. I think I'll be a better teenager mom. I'm much more that let's talk about life. Let's explain how things work. I want to hear about your day. And as I get older, I feel like we're getting more into that groove. We're still, they're
Mhm.
like 9 and my oldest. We're definitely not ready for mom's big life experience lectures, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping to be that mom that they come home and sit at the bench and eat a snack and tell me about their day. But right
Yeah.
now, I haven't found that sweet spot of, am I really showing up? Am I doing enough? Am I bonding with them?
I
Or,
know. And
you
part of me
know,
wonders, like, that because I hear so often from my friends with boys that are at that late 9, 10 age, how that's when they start to kind of close off and they like just go to their room and do their own thing
yeah,
and don't want to sit and chat. And so I'm like, okay, do I need to, at this point when they're 3 and 6, make that part of our day so that those little chats, that's something that we just do, right? So it's not something that's popped on them at
yeah,
10 when they're not used to that. And so
sure,
I try really hard to have those conversations now just to make it normal
yeah.
so that it's not something that I'm being nosy or whatever you think, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I think that's great. I'm starting to see that with my kids. Like, just launched a retreat for next year. And so I spent like a full day working on that on my day off. The kids were at camp and I was
Yeah.
just really glad to have that time. And then when they came home, I was like, okay, I better put this away and focus on them a little bit. And then it's kind of like, hey, you guys want to go to the park or you want to read a book? And it's like, no, that's okay. Bye, mom. I keep finding
Oh,
myself having those
wow.
moments where I'm like, okay, let's be
Wow.
purposeful. Let's go spend that time with them. But they
Yeah.
have their own things they want to do too. And
Yeah.
so that in some ways is freeing. It gives me more chance and I don't feel as bad that they're doing their own thing, but also it's harder to connect in a way. And so maybe
Mhm.
when they're little, like, did I do enough? Did I lay that foundation? And I seriously worry about that sometimes.
I do too. And then it's awful, I think, to have that guilt because when we think about these things, it's always outside of the moment, right? And then when you're in the moment, so often it just feels like survival. And you're just trying to get them out the door. You're just trying to get dinner on the table. You just are trying to survive the day.
Mhm.
And so I think it's well and good to have good intentions because I think sometimes that will work if you're intentional enough. But so often I feel like I know I thought about all these things, but I just can't do it right now, you know?
For sure.
And so that makes it hard. And then when you have the guilt afterwards, when you're thinking about it, you're like, gosh, I knew better than to react that way, but that's how I reacted again. Do you think it was different with having twins? Do you think that the way that, because I only had one at a time, and I definitely felt with my second that I wasn't giving him the undivided attention that I was able to give my first, but you had two at the same time. And so what do you think about that? And as a twin, do you think about that? Like having grown up in the same way?
Yeah, I think it definitely had an effect. And I luckily am not really prone to a lot of mom guilt. I think there's no way to fully get away from it. But
Yeah.
my biggest pain point, the biggest question mark I have as a mother is, did I bond with my twins the way I was supposed to? And again,
Mhm.
is there a supposed to? I mean, we put these expectations, so I'm trying not to think of it in that way, but that's what my heart is asking. And I'm already a working mom, so I was apart from them for that reason. And then even I switched jobs after I had them and cut down my hours quite a bit because the job that I found didn't need me as much. And so I was only working 2 days a week and I had a phenomenal nanny that I wanted to keep. Like, how do you find a nanny for
Yeah.
infant twins that you trust
Right.
and feels capable? So I wanted to keep her, but I knew she needed hours. So I kept her on, even though I was home part of that time. And part of me is like, isn't that a blessing that I had help? Like, that's
I
so
know.
nice, and that probably helped me be a better mom because I wasn't just this frazzled having 2 babies, and it's
Yeah.
so hard having 2 babies at once, especially those first few months, but then part of me is like, maybe I should have done it alone because they learned to rely on someone else, and I wasn't their
Yeah.
person, I
Wow.
wasn't there enough, and I was stretched between the 2 and that motherly bond, like, the stuff that people talk about, I don't know if I feel that or have that or they feel that or have that as much
Mhm.
with me as we should have, and then when I had my 3rd baby, it was so different, also so
Yes.
much easier. So
Yes.
different, but I feel like she's so bonded to me in a way that my other 2 little ones weren't, and so that comparison
Whoa. Yeah.
made me worry, and I still worry. And yet, isn't it wonderful that they built bonds with grandma and grandpa and
Mhm.
aunts and uncles and community members and the nanny? Like, they had so many people to love on them and to consistently help them and to be their people. And I feel like they're very good at talking to strangers and adults. And
Mhm.
so maybe that's that community that we used to have. And it's so hard to ask for help that I do, if I'm honest with myself, I feel guilty. Maybe I should have done it on my own. Maybe I shouldn't have had the nanny helping me so much. And logically, that sounds kind of stupid,
Right.
probably, but
Right.
I still
Yeah.
worry.
Of course, yeah. But do you think I think too with twins, what a incredible thing to have a twin. Because even if, let's say that you don't feel like you were able to really bond with them, it's not like they were just out on their own, right? I mean, they have the twin bond, they have each other. And at the end of the day, hopefully, God willing, our children outlive us and they'll always have each other.
My mom says doctors need friends too. That's why she made the Doctors All In retreat. It's like recess, but way fancier. You should come play. Get more info at the doctorsallin.org.
And so I think it's really a cool thing because even though you feel like maybe you didn't bond the same, it's such a cool thing that twins have their own innate bond, like this person that they've shared all of their experiences with from the womb to everything, their whole life, right? And even as sad as it is to think about these things, God willing, our children will outlive us. And so what an awesome thing that they may not have that bond that you think that you quote unquote should have, but they'll always have that bond with each other, which I think is incredible. You know what I mean? Because that can carry through long after you're gone.
I
And that's
appreciate you
something
saying that.
different, yeah, that other siblings don't have.
No, that's a good mindset for me to adopt and remember because, yeah, I think that that's right. And I mean, there's just no way that one person can
Yeah.
give the same attention to
Right.
each baby as you would to one.
Mhm.
One baby takes all of your attention or all of 2 parents' attention or whatever. So,
Right.
yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I think there's pros and cons to everything, right?
Right.
So maybe we didn't get that like intense mother-baby connection like some moms do, or I just feel like some moms just think their babies are so delicious and their baby won't go to anyone else. And thankfully mine would because I needed help.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, please, who wants a baby?
Yes.
Thank you. Take
Yes.
you too.
It's weird too. I had that with my second one. I was like, does anybody want to take him? Anybody? Because it's just like
Right.
when
Who's
you
up?
eat every hour on the hour for 30 minutes,
Yeah,
that's
I tried to do
exhausting.
that with 2 babies and then pump because they're not eating very well. Yeah, it was a struggle for sure.
Mhm.
What do you think? Do you think that those bonds are so settled and kind of put in place as babies, or do you think that we can work on that? Maybe that's something I can improve
Mhm.
at this stage. Do you have any
I
thoughts?
100% think that it is something that continues to grow regardless because every infant is different and every mother baby bonding experience is different. And it's interesting because so many people, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how we all were told that you're supposed to have this ethereal, this amazing moment of bonding right as soon as the first time you see your baby. It's this magical something. And like so many moms were like, I didn't have that. And so I felt like I was not meant to be a mom. And, but then so many people said it. So it's interesting because I had a C-section. And so I had my arms like Jesused out and they were strapped down. I couldn't hold on to him. I couldn't do anything. And then my husband puts him right up next to my face. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I couldn't see and I couldn't move away. And it was such a weird feeling. And then you think, well, this was supposed to be really magical and it wasn't. I'm not good at this. And, but it's, I think, reassuring that not everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
And so I think and something else that is a really interesting thing to put out into the world, I've told this to a bunch of my good friends, but, it's not something that you really like to talk about too much. But with
Ooh,
my
spill the
younger
tea.
one, yes, my younger one was, like I said, he was just a handful. And so I really had a hard time bonding with him. I bonded with him greatly because he was always on me. He wouldn't let me put him down ever. But I was just exhausted. And I remember when we got our au pair, watching them play together, I was like, that's what everybody means when they say that he's so cute and so this and so that. And I'm like, I could never see it because I was just so stressed out by his pterodactyl screech and his constant neediness. I couldn't see it. And now I'm like, now I see it. And I watched her, this 22-year-old, beautiful, Colombian, wonderful, amazing person, interact with him. And I realized how to better interact with my child. Isn't that cool? And so she taught me so much, and so I feel like in that way, that's how I've been able to better bond with him now that he's a little bit older, is because I watched how she was able to do it. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it's really brave of you to share. It is something, it's scary to say out loud because these are
Mm-hmm.
things that you're questioning and it's part of who you are, and you maybe feel some shame and you don't want other people to know these failings of you as a person. Our
Right.
motherhood, we want to be good moms. Isn't
Yes.
that the whole point of this? And so it is scary. And there probably will be people that listen and go, that's terrible. It's so easy to judge, but everything you said made so much sense to me. I had a similar experience with my twins where it was a very scary delivery and they whisked my babies off. And so I didn't get to see them. And I really, really wanted to not have NICU babies because I really, really wanted to see my babies. And then I was left alone. They were worried about me. I was having a lot of bleeding, etc. And so I was left alone in a room while my husband was out checking on the babies, and my call button fell down off the side, and I wasn't smart enough in my headspace to find the cord and pull it up. So I couldn't even watch TV. I was just like a hostage in this bed, just sitting there bored, in pain. They gave
Wondering
me
if your children were
medications.
alive, right?
Right, if they were okay. They gave me medications to try to stop or start contractions to stop the
Right.
bleeding, but it also caused diarrhea. I wasn't able to get out of bed, so it was kind of this humiliating
Yeah.
experience. And so turns out my daughter was okay and wasn't actually in the NICU. She was in the step down unit and got cleared, but no one thought, bring the baby to the mom. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
I had them at 1 p.m. And by the time they're like, oh, you want to see your baby? I was in such a bad headspace. I will say that probably was literally the worst day of my life. And that's not what you're supposed to say about the
Right.
day your baby was
I
born. You're supposed to
know.
forget all the trauma, and it's just supposed to be this amazing experience. By the time they brought her to me, I was spinning out, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to meet my baby, and I don't even think I care I have babies,
Mm-hmm.
And then I was so
And
tired.
hormones, man. Holy cow.
Right. So
Wow.
I didn't get to hold her very long before they're like, do you want to go see your little boy in the NICU? So they rolled me over, but I was so wiped. I hadn't slept in a couple days. And so I held him for, I think it was 6 minutes, 8 minutes or something. And I felt so guilty. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I just have to go lay down.
Isn't that interesting?
So I didn't
Yeah.
have that overwhelming, oh, gushy,
Yeah.
amazing. That was the most traumatic day of my life. It was terrifying, and it was
Yeah.
lonely, and it was humiliating, and it was disappointing on so many levels. And
Yeah.
yet, does that really affect my momming now? But when you feel like that's expectation,
Yeah.
it's really hard.
So as a surgeon mom, becoming a mom for the first time, this is a really interesting thing that happened to me. So I was 37 weeks and my firstborn was breech. And so they were like, well, we can try the ECV, the flippy do, right? That's what I like to call it.
I
And
like that.
I was like, okay, that sounds good. And they were like, well, do you want to have an epidural? And I was like, yes, because, well, you can look at me and my hair and you know how well I do with pain. And so I wasn't willing to really test the waters. And I'd heard about these procedures and that it can just be really
Uh-huh.
uncomfortable. And so, thank God I did have the epidural because when they got him flipped so that he was head down, and as soon as that happened, so it was the attending and a resident in the room, and I had tried to get them to play music, and they were trying to get the Wi-Fi in the OR to work, and couldn't really get it going. And so it didn't have music, and I was like, "Well, that's okay, I'll breathe." And then all of a sudden my OB was like, "Can we get fetal heart rate? What's fetal heart rate?" And anesthesiologist is like, "Oh, it's this." And he said, "That's it. This baby's coming now," or whatever it was. And in my brain, I was like, "Doopy doopy doo," like, "Okay, wow, that was cool to see how he just turned on, as a surgeon, because that's what we do, right? That's what we hope that we do. And that's what our patients hoped that we do. And it was sort of had this out of body experience, which I think was my own brain protecting me, or the hand of God protecting me, just because all I could think was, wow, that was wonderful how he just jumped right into action. And he went and scrubbed and came out and yelled at the corpsman because he hadn't prepped. And I was like, I get that. And here I am, about to have a C-section when I didn't even pack a hospital bag because I wasn't expecting to have a baby this day. But it was such a weird thing because it took me way longer after the fact, so days later to be like, and even months later to be like, wow, things could have really gone wrong. Like he had a nuchal cord, it was wrapped because when they spun him, it tethered around his neck, and that's why his heart
Wow.
rate dropped. And there's so many things that could have gone wrong that my brain didn't even allow me to go there. But it's funny because as a surgeon, all I could think was, wow, he really stepped right up and went right into action. And it was very calm and it was very decisive. And that was wonderful. And this is just what I was thinking. It was so weird. But I think that's such a surgeon response to
Oh,
the
for sure.
situation, right? And so there's so many things that we do, like you're saying, task oriented, this, and there's so many things that we do in our day to day lives. But that was such a strange response, I think. And I'm so thankful for it.
Yeah, I mean, I had kind of not in the same way, but one of those aha moments during my delivery. Both of my pregnancies had some complications, and I didn't realize until just recently how dangerous and scary and maybe life-threatening my twin delivery ended up being. But my son was breech as well, and I did what's called a breech extraction. So I delivered my first baby normally, and then they were like, "We'll just grab him out and pull him down." But then when they did, his arm got stuck around his head, and so he got stuck, and they couldn't get him out. And they even said, "We're gonna break his arm to try to get him out." And the attending was my friend,
Yeah.
which was really great. But her older mentor, who was a high risk medicine MFM doctor, was in there just assisting with this, 'cause a little more complex. The older attending, the mentor, was at my belly kind of pushing down, and she was trying to get him out, and she was like, "Will you put some gloves on and come around here?" And, "Oh no, I think you want me up here." And she's like, "We put some gloves on and come around." And she's like, "No, I think you really want me up here. Will you please put some gloves on and come around?"
Yeah.
And at that moment, she came around,
Yeah.
and then my husband's like, "She didn't even put gloves on."
Yes.
Like, something is going down. Something's going down, down, down if you're not
Yeah.
putting gloves on, because PPE, precaution, universal precautions, all that.
Right.
But it's funny when you get those little windows where they probably didn't want me to know in that moment, like, "Oh, we're getting nervous," but yeah, we're not. We're in the gloves. So yeah, interesting perspective
Yeah. And that's
for
funny.
sure.
It's not funny at all. But my neighbor had a similar situation with her daughter, like her third child, where her arm got stuck and she had issues after that. But because of that, being in the birth canal for an extended period of time wasn't oxygenating in those moments as well. And so they were really concerned for seizure activity that they were seeing post
Sure.
delivery and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just amazing that any of us are born halfway normal. I mean, truth be told, you know?
Yeah, thank you, modern medicine,
Yeah.
because I would not be here. My mom would not have survived the birth of us, nor I probably survived that time around. And then,
Right.
me
Amazing.
trying again. Thank you for
Amazing.
saving our lives multiple times. I think that was kind of dangerous. Like, yay, we made it through.
I know. I know. I know.
Yes, definitely.
But it's fun to have that little window of insight, when you hear certain things, because because you've been in those situations before. And especially with what we do in dentistry, because so often our patients are awake for the procedures that we're doing, right? And so it's a huge, I don't think that patients really think about it that much, but there's so many things in what we do that can kind of go wrong too. And being able
They
to maintain
don't
your
know.
composure
They
and
don't know how much we're communicating with just our eyes too. Like, do you do that
yes,
behind your mask? Your
yes,
assistant knows exactly what you're thinking. We're all going, "Ooh, yeah."
yes,
We got our eyes big, or we're like,
yeah,
make it, yeah, for sure. Well, I love that they can keep their composure and save the day, and what a
yeah,
blessing.
right.
Oh, this is an interesting question. What would you hope your kids would say about you when they get older?
Oh my gosh. I don't even think I can answer without crying.
We like
I'm
the
like tearing
crying.
up. I'm like, oh my
That's
gosh. And I
okay.
hadn't even thought of an answer. It was just the thought of thinking of an answer. It's
Yeah.
interesting though, because I think what I was thinking, what's making me like, teary eyed and whatever is emotional is that all the things I'd want them to say, they probably wouldn't say because I'm so stressed out. And so it's like, oh gosh, I should really work on that.
It's hard to hold space, I think, for a question like that because we
Yeah.
have all these hopes and dreams of how we want to be a parent, but
Yeah.
also the honest conversations with ourselves about, am I measuring up? And so, yeah, I think that's a scary question
Yeah.
to answer
I
as
think so too.
well.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember when, and we should talk about this in another episode too, with the fact that I took my board 7 years after residency. But I remember I was studying. My husband was always taking my older son because I was pregnant with my younger son, but he was always taking my older son to do things. And he was 2 at the time. And I remember he was talking to somebody about his parents, and he said, my dad flies airplanes and my mom's busy. And I was like, oh, 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 well, there's that. It's like, oh my gosh. And so
Oh my gosh.
that's what I am like, get emotional about because I'm like, oh my gosh, are they just gonna say that I was just busy? And so I don't
No, I've had similar feelings. My husband is so good at being present, hands-on, like to a fault. Like when he comes home, he's with the kids.
yeah.
And it's so amazing. And watching him in action is just inspiring. And talk about the guy that doesn't meet any of those bad husband, deadbeat dad stereotypes. He is all in.
Yeah.
He's part of this organization called Front Row Dads. And lately I've been like, does that mean I'm a back row mom? He's so good at it. And I've had these fears like, when we grow up, is it going to be like, we just loved our dad and our mom was okay? Or, like I
Yeah.
worry, am I spending enough time? Am I having an impact? And am I teaching them enough? Like, that's the other thing. Like, am I preparing them to be citizens that can enter the world and at a minimum not cause damage and hopefully be contributing members of society? And I worry about that. But I have had glimmers where sometimes they're so amazing and they say these things and you don't even realize you said that or parented them in that way in that moment, and yet they repeat back via two-handed surgeon.
Yes.
They pick it up. And so I think so often we're afraid we're not doing enough, we're not spending every moment just perfectly, but I think they're so resilient and
Yes.
malleable,
Mm,
and I'm amazed at the things they do seem to be picking up for me. And so I'm hopeful that one day we'll be good at chores, when right now I'm like, am I just failing at teaching them to work hard and to do things because it's such a pain
I know.
to get them to do it,
Because
and
then it
it's
takes
so
3
much
times as
work,
long. Yes.
and then I have to hear the crying every time. So sometimes it's
Yes.
easier to just be like,
I'll just do
oh
it.
well.
I'll just do it. It's fine. I'll just do it. Yeah. And I think it was funny. We went to a baby shower the other day, and my kiddo was the only kiddo that was left. And he started, as my friend was unwrapping the gifts, he found a job where he could take the wrapping paper and put it in the trash. And he was just soaking it up and having a ball and was so good about it. I'm like, wait a second. I don't feel like this ever happens at home. How in the world can I get this to happen at home? And so with that said, what kinds of things are you doing differently now that you weren't able to do before, or that you encourage that behavior?
I think they're so much more capable than we realize. And our kids go to a Montessori school, so the Montessori method is kids learn through doing and through play, and a
Yes.
lot of the play is simulating real life. And so they're giving 3-year-olds knives and sharp scissors, things that, no, 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 most
Yeah.
parents, but we're like, here you go, and pour your own water and all of that. And I remember I went and subbed one day, and they had their little snack, and then they did their dishes and put it in the drying rack. And I was, what? Why are we not doing this at home? They're sweeping the floor. You can do this? Like, why are we not doing this at home?
Yeah.
So trying to find those things that they can do. And I've been trying to back off a little. This other day, I was like, I really could use your guys' help. Can you please pick up this living room area? And I came back, and 3 minutes later, it looked amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow. Also, okay, tomorrow, this is our new chore,
Right.
But
Yes. Yeah.
I think for us starting early and keeping it simple, because again,
Mhm.
I don't have the time for the chores. And that's what's tricky. So much of this parenting stuff, you have to spend so much time investing into the thing that one day might save us time. If they can empty the dishwasher, then that's amazing. That's going to save me time. But it might take me hours and hours and hours for 5 years before they do.
Right.
But we
Yeah.
have them empty the dishwasher every day. And then I try to get them to clean their room every day. And those are kind of like our basic things. But even that is hard
Mhm.
to maintain when I'm not there every day. They have this babysitter or that fill-in
Right.
babysitter, or dad's at home, or then we're rushing from this on that day. I
Yeah.
haven't been very good at keeping consistency. And that's probably the hardest part as a working mom.
I think one thing that I've been trying to do, at least with my younger one lately, so he was going to the sort of Waldorf style school. It's like an outside school, but they make their own food there. And so they all contribute. It's a person's birthday. They'll mix up the cake, and each kiddo adds an ingredient and does some stirring. And
Mhm.
some people want to stir a whole lot one day, and some people want to stir just a little bit and pass it along. And so one thing I've been trying to do with my younger one is to start baking, because I love to bake. It's my happy place. I used to bake all the time, and now I don't really do it anymore. But I found that it is kind of fun to have him help. And I'm having to let go of I hate a mess. I hate making a mess. So I always clean up as I go. But there's a lot more flour that ends up on the counter when he's helping. And so I'm trying to let go of that. But something that's what I'm trying to get him to start helping me cook and bake and add ingredients and stir, and because he really enjoys it. And I think really all that they really want out of any of these things is one-on-one time. It doesn't matter what you're doing, right? And so I'm starting to try and recognize that and hopefully play into that. And that's how we can get things done, maybe, by doing it together. So we'll see.
Just turned 7-year-old has been making guacamole for me, and that's been amazing. So thank you for sending the avocados.
You got it.
What a dream. All I have to do is be like, hey, will someone make guacamole? And they're like, yeah, we got it. And I'm like, man, this is what you have kids for.
It's awesome.
That's what we've been training them for.
It's awesome. I love it so much.
Okay. Well, let's end with, if you could go back and tell your earlier mom self one thing, what would that be?
Again, these things are so hard, right? Because I still feel like I'm in the thick of it with the tantrums and with the newly formed, ever-changing opinions that my kiddos have.
I think if I had to go tell my mom self one thing, I would say that you're doing just fine. You're actually doing great, and everything's going to be okay. Just keep going. It will get easier, and try to find the joy in the little moments. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Resting Stitch Face. If today's conversation spoke to you, imagine what it would feel like to connect in person. That's exactly why we created The Doctor Is All In, a retreat just for women in oral surgery. Learn more and grab your spot at thedoctorisallin.org. We'll see you next time.